Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, before the first Arctic Circle Assembly came together in October 2013, the United States Secretary of State sat in Kabul, in Afghanistan, and despite all the pressures and the worries of that conflicted, war-suffering area of the world, his mind was still on the climate future of our planet and the Arctic. So he sat down and wrote in his own hand a letter of encouragement and support to this new Arctic Circle Assembly, which at that time, when he sat in Kabul, probably late at night, and wrote that letter, had no guarantee of success, which was a vision of bringing together all the stakeholders of the planet who saw the connection between the future of the Arctic and the future of the Earth. And although we couldn't give him any guarantee that we would succeed, he was willing to stake his office, his reputation, his political capital on being on record as wishing us well as we started that journey. Having been myself for many years in the office of democratic pressures and public service, I know it takes the courage to put the name of a high office and your individual reputation to something which was still just a vision and a dream. But throughout his career, his long period of service to his country, and the high offices that he had held before he sat down in Kabul, the vision, the inspiration, the dedication, the willingness to take the long journey had always characterized his performance on the democratic stage. And some years later, he took on the chairmanship of the Arctic Council at a time when the Arctic was fast becoming a new global territory where all the leading countries of Asia and Africa, or Asia and Europe, in addition to the leading Arctic states sitting around the Arctic Council table, had come together. A few years before, he had represented his country in Kiruna in Sweden when China, Japan, Korea, Singapore, India, and others were accepted as observer states in the Arctic Council. And throughout his chairmanship, he brought the United States government in a new way, productive way, imaginative way, dedicated way, into the leadership of the Arctic family, as we often call it. And the period culminated with a remarkable historic agreement on Arctic science, although by that time he had left office. But before, as some of us remember in this hall, when President Hollande stood on the stage and made the only major speech he delivered prior to the Paris Climate Conference, the Secretary arrived in Paris, and like a person who was both willing and accustomed to work politics, not only in the visionary way, but also in the practical way, where you have to get people to come together and agree. I always remember witnessing him on the sidelines in Paris, in the halls, sitting down with a delegate from another reluctant country and pressuring that person to become a part of the final agreement. I am absolutely convinced that without the Secretary's contribution, we would not have succeeded in acquiring the Paris Climate Agreement. And throughout all these years and even before, he was at the forefront within his own country in providing a global leadership on the ocean. Of course, being a sailor and a lover of the ocean, he knew what was at stake and used his office to bring together multiple nations in order to secure the future of what is almost 70% of our planet's surface. For all of this and more, we are proud to present here today the Arctic Circle Prize to Secretary John Kerry. And through that act, on behalf of the Arctic family, the activists, the nations, the communities, the scientists, the experts, the officials, the policymakers, thank him. Thank him profoundly, not only for his service, but also how he has set an example to other elected leaders who will, in the coming years, have to make sure that the Arctic remains a territory of the planet where cooperation, science, harmony, and a care for the future of the planet are the guiding lines of every gathering that is dedicated to the future of the Arctic and the future of the planet. Here on the stage, this remarkable art by an Icelandic artist, which symbolizes the glaciers, symbolizes the ice, reminds us what is at stake and how the glaciers are melting. And in the documentation bound in fishskin, couldn't really provide Secretary Kerry with a folder bound in anything else. It says, the Arctic Circle Prize 2019, honoring John Kerry for his leadership as the US chair of the Arctic Council and in the success of the Paris Climate Conference, and saluting his campaign for the oceans. So on behalf of the Arctic Circle and all of us in the Arctic family, may I invite you, John, to come up here to the stage and receive the documentation of this prize as well as the symbol of the glaciers and the ice.
Thank you so much. Very generous.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Maybe I can stand there.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.